Welcome to the Sales and Marketing for Decorators podcast with me, John Mears, and today I am joined by painter and decorator extraordinaire, host of the Painting and Decorating show on Fix Radio, the 1 p.m. slot, no mind, and all-round good guy, Joel Bardall. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. How the devil are you?
Oh, I'm having a good time. Yeah, the sun's still out, even though it's evenings are getting a little bit longer. Thank God.
Oh, mate, I know. Do you know what? It's really nice, but it's deceiving because if the sun comes out, it's really nice, but then all of a sudden it goes in and you get a little bit of gust of wind, and you think we're not quite there yet. Because I've really been thinking, I thought, I've got loads of exterior work. And I'm thinking because I've had to chop and change the job around, and thought, do I dare start one early? And then, you just think, I'm actually looking at the weather and it's going to be chucking it down in the next few days as well. I mean, you can't see what the weather's going to be like anyway, but we're not quite there yet. We're not quite there. But but it's nice though. It is definitely lighter and it is definitely getting warmer. So, it's, I think it's needed, isn't it, after the last few months that we've had?
I think so. I think everyone needs it. Everybody needs it. So tell us a little bit about you. Where are you based? How long you've been decorating for? And what do we need to know about all things Joel Bardall?
Oh, what do you need to know? That's a good question. Right, so I'm based in Beckenham, which is kind of Kent, southeast London. It's like Bromley Borough anyway. It's around there. The business itself, Bardall Decorating Services, been running for, I think it's got to be something like 8 years now, getting something to 8 years. But before that, I would say I've been involved in this industry sort of in the last 20 years. But I've worked in different environments. So I've worked for companies where I've kind of done more, obviously as a younger, like apprenticeships and stuff like that. But I've done more multi-trades kind of roles as well. So I had my toes dipped in all sorts of kind of different things like electrics, did a bit of plastering and stuff like that. But that's not to say that I'm very good at plastering. I'm not terrible at it. Patch plastering and stuff like that. So anyway, I've got some skills like that. But like the decorating side of things, that's let's have a think. I don't know, sort of. Yeah, so it's mainly doing this now. So my business 8 years. Then I was actually working with my uncle who had his own decorating business for a couple of years before that, and then this other company. So it's been quite a few years. Let's say 15 years altogether, around that. So 15, 16 years, mainly decorating. But all in all, I've done all kind of bits and bobs and stuff like that as well. So.
Yeah. So can you tell us then, because obviously painters and decorators love to moan about plasterers and chippies and anyone else on site really. Is it the same? Because you're like an undercover operative then. So do you know plasterers and you've done a bit of electrics and stuff like that? Do you moan when you were doing those? Were you moaning about decorators, not justifying your hard work?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I didn't at the time I was doing it. Maybe I didn't appreciate it. Maybe it was not until I actually started doing the decorating properly, and I thought to myself, "Oh God, that must have been awful as well." Then now I realise. Now I'm like, I must have been that bloke. I must have been the one who did that. But you know what? They don't help themselves. You think, well, it's like a stereotype. But even the last job I've just been doing, it's like the guy had done just put bonding where he chased out the cables, and I thought. What? It looked like he'd done that. It looked like he dubbed it in with his fingers. It's just like, what is the state of it? But you see it on social media. You see all the chippies. You see that. That's not to say they're all the same, but the thing is, there's far too many out there now. I mean, it's some shocking work, but it's down to us, isn't it? The decorator will sort it. So
they'll fix it. No, it's funny. I was speaking to Pete Wilkinson the other day, and he said he's spoken with several some carpenters and joiners and stuff have done his spraying course because they were fed up of the painters and decorators not doing justice to their bespoke furniture and stuff like that. So they wanted to spray it themselves.
It sounds like everyone's guilty then. I think we're all
There's always going to be some out there just toshing paint on and not doing it right, but they're in every trade.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So what I wanted to talk to you about today then, Joel, is title of the show will be How to Attract the Right Type of Customers. And I've been very keen to speak to you about this. Number one, I first sort of came across your work via Instagram and things like that, and Twitter certainly. And your transformations always seemed incredible, and the level of finish that you were putting on there was superb. And I'm not going to big you up too much because
You can do, don't worry. You want this?
all right,
carry on,
okay.
mate. Carry on. I love it.
Yeah, and I noticed that you had a lot of freedom in the products you were choosing and everything like that, which to me sort of said, okay, you're attracting the sort of customers that will. Obviously, you've got your personal pride and everything like that, and you always want to do a very good job, and obviously you've got a lot of skill involved, but you also need to find customers that are happy for you to deliver that level of finish, because perhaps it will take a little bit longer in certain cases, and there are some customers who don't want you to spend loads of time doing it and really making it look brilliant. They just want you to go in, put the paint on, change the color of the wall, and get in and out, job done. So I think everything with your company and how you go about things has to attract the sort of customers that you want to work for. So I want to see, you went self-employed 8 years ago. Was that the first time going self-employed?
Well, so yeah, pretty much. We're starting up the business. I was self-employed before that, but it's kind of more, let's say, sort of subcontracting kind of, scenario. So I've been self-employed for a while, but it's just literally starting up my own business in my own name was 8 years ago. So
okay. I think one of the first things most painters and decorators will try to do when they start their own business and get themselves a bit more established is try and build up that initial block of regular customers, those sort of 20, 30 people that you'll do work for at least once a year or so. How did you initially start to build up those customers, and are some of those people still clients of yours today, or has your business completely moved on away from them?
Do you know what? Funny enough, you talk about the social media thing, and I would say, because Twitter was the main one that really kind of got me started with social media and posting work. Twitter's changed a bit in the last couple of years. I don't think it's the same as what it was, but initially I would say go back in that kind of time, like eight years ago, and there's a lot of businesses. I don't know, it's a lot of businesses seem to kind of interact with each other. I don't know, I just generated so much work with it. So there's people, so I was posting pictures, and they were doing the rounds, and I was just kind of getting customers' recommendations and stuff like that. I still get that, but it's just not to the same level as what it was. And I think a lot of people moved over kind of into the gram, and they've kind of, and so there's quite a few people I still work for now. So, but because it's through them, so I've worked for them, and then they posted on Twitter the recommendations, and then I've done work for the neighbours. I mean, there's the job I've just done now. She's on Twitter, and I've been working for the last 8 years. I've done the outside, I've been inside, I've redone rooms again where they've changed the mind and colours, but I've done the neighbours as well. So there's just this one road where I've worked with neighbours, because that one see me at the outside, they want the outside done the inside. that one kind of job that I posted on Twitter has just led on to so much work just from this one individual and all the neighbours. So it's been amazing.
Joel Bardall Street.
Joel Bardall Street,
painted every house. Oh,
I am that geezer.
I know you're a dad, so
I've done that. I've painted that one. Yeah, exactly.
It's Isabella, isn't it? Your little
That's
one.
It. Yeah, that's right.
Do you drive down that road and go, see that house?
She's at that age. She likes it. I think she actually I think she's going to give her a couple of years and she'll be like, shut up, Dad. But at the moment, she's like, really? She's all enthusiastic, but that ain't going to last forever, no. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is like that now, because partly even was the area I live in, a lot of the work, I would say, the majority of the time, I'm actually focused on the area as well, which is great. 10 minutes down the road, I don't do much driving. And it's nice, but it is so, because I'm always driving around. I'm like, it is that. I've done that. We'll forget about that one.
So that initial blast of customers, you've still got some of them today. Then, So when you were building up that bank of customers, and let's say every year, what's an average for you? So were you averaging a job a week? So maybe 45, 50 jobs a year, maybe, or less than that?
It's got to be something like that, yeah. But it just depends. I suppose it depends, because you know what this job's like. You could be doing the bedroom for a couple of days, but then you could do a whole stairs and landing. It could be a couple of weeks. So it always changes in the exterior work. So yeah, I would say roughly it must be something like that, but it just depends, really. It just depends.
So if we say you're probably dealing with somewhere between 30 and 50 customers a year, and a fair chunk of that will be regular work. Do you find, as you over the sort of the 8 years you've been out on your own, have you found sort of every year maybe 10% will drop off the bottom end, and you'll pick up a new 10% of customers that are perhaps more up your street? Have you consciously tried to improve that bank of regular customers so that you've got higher paying or customers who value you more often?
Yeah, I see what you mean, because I have seen these posts and I have read, and because there is one thing I probably would say that I'm guilty of sometimes. Well, probably a lot of the times, is the customers that I've got to know. You kind of start your pricing, and you're thinking, oh, I don't want them thinking I'm taking advantage, which is not good in the business sense, because you know they're not your friends, they're your clients, and I think it's to break that kind of mentality. But so there are times when I'm thinking, oh, you know, but I have up prices, and then they stuck with me. Don't get me wrong, there will be ones that will probably just fade away. But if I've decorated their house completely anyway, so they might not need me back for a while. But like that, I was just saying about that one particular job. But there's like someone else as well. So I've worked for them. I've done so much work for them, but they just keep recommending me to their friends, and then recommend to them. So it's just like a chain of, you know. So that's what I think. I think it's good to keep the people that you, your regular clients that you keep happy. I think it's good to keep them on board because of the recommendations. Because that one job we can turn into hundreds of jobs, you know, because that person recommends to someone else. So. I think for me, it works for me anyway. But like I say, there probably are times when I'm thinking I should be a bit more, you know.
Yeah, it's a difficult one with those, with historical customers like that, because you think, I've got so much work because of them. They've sort of almost earned a little bit of a discount, or they've earned the right to not have the same yearly price increase that you might give to other people. When you do your price increases, do you just look at it as a sort of percentage and go, right, sort of moving forward, maybe I'm going to charge an extra 5% more as a rule, or how do you implement that?
If I'm looking at what basically the rough amount that I'm charging per day, which I expect to be earning per day, then you know, every kind of year you start thinking, well, you know, everything else is going up. I've got to kind of cover these costs as well, to start taking that into account. I mean, there probably was one particular point when I'm thinking, oh, you know, I need to sort of increase it a bit more, because it sort of seems to be everything else is going up except for my costs. I feel like I'm not. It's not sort of balancing out. But it's just trying to kind of up the rate that I'm earning a day, really, just figuring it out, because the other costs as well, you know, like business insurance, van insurance, everything else that goes with it. So it's just trying to kind of balance it, really.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, your business overheads, which you know can be a considerable amount when you break it down to like a per day basis. They are constantly going up, and obviously the general cost of living and everything is going up. I think as a rule of thumb, a 5% price increase per year is more than reasonable. And look at anything really, paint manufacturers or anyone else in the rest of the industry that are selling products, their prices go up every year.
Yeah, cool.
And it is because there are rising costs. The cost of labor continually goes up to produce these products. The cost of the materials to make them goes up. So it's just one of those. I know it's a difficult one, especially with what you do as a painter and decorator. You have very personal relationships, I feel, with your customers, especially the ones that have been with you for a long time, and it's probably quite difficult to sit there face to face with them and talk about how your prices are a little bit higher this year and why that is. Whereas
actually, another, I was just thinking then, because I've actually just been to see a client that I did the quote 2 years ago. So this is what happens. Yeah, then this happens quite a lot as well. And they go, oh, yes, so for instance, this job, they went, oh, yeah, can we book you in for this? And I'm like, it's like 2 years ago. So I actually said, well, that's completely fine, but you've got to bear in mind, costs have gone up since then. So I popped round and had to say, look, even to like the materials, but we're going to have to take into consideration the labour costs as well, because 2 years ago, so much is, I can't even remember the flipping rooms, to be honest with you. I said, oh, yeah, because I want to get that room. I'm like, I've seen about 2,000 rooms since I've quoted that. So, so I do get that a lot as well. Actually, do you know what? Another thing I was just thinking back to as well, and I think it was like 3 years ago, and I don't know what happened. It was really strange because I thought, right, there was that, and I thought I've got to start upping my prices, and I didn't even up it. It wasn't a significant amount of money, so I started charging a little bit more. But the work just seemed to just dry out. It was really, and I'm always really busy, and it got to a certain point, and I thought, this is but that, I think it could be just coincidence, and then you start doubting yourself, because then you start thinking, oh, I must be charging too much money, but then you start hearing from other people, and then you're thinking, I think you just have a bad run sometimes. I don't know what it is, but another thing as well, you can't just put all your eggs in one basket. So if you kind of rely on, because those, you've got the regular clients and the word of mouth, but sometimes you might just dry out a little bit. I don't know. So
it's a difficult one. I think you're extra paranoid when you've made any sort of change to your business. If you've changed your marketing or increased your prices or anything, you're on high alert. And if the phone doesn't ring for a couple of days, you're like, oh shit, oh, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done?
No, it was like that as well. Because I remember thinking to myself, what's going on? I'm like, what? Because I wasn't used to it. Because I was always used to just being months and months and months like booked in advance. And you get to the point, I'm like, sort of picking and thinking this ain't good. But then after that point, it was just when, so say 3 or 4 years ago, wherever it was, and then after that, I think it got past sort of like Christmas, and then it just went crazy again. So, and it has been like that since. So,
I think there's always sort of peaks and valleys, aren't there? And just sometimes you'll get unlucky, and
exactly.
A little dry patch will be coming along, and then that just happens to coincide when you put your prices up, and it can it can be a bit of a difficult one to get your head around. So let's talk about how many. Obviously, you don't get every job that you quote for. Am I right in saying that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So, what percentage of quotes do you think that you go for turn into actual jobs? And do you keep an eye on that? Do you think, okay, if I'm getting 9 out of 10 quotes, then I'm probably a little bit cheap? And do you think if you're only getting 3 out of 4, you might be a little bit too expensive? Do you keep an eye on that sort of thing to judge your pricing?
That's a good question. Yes and no. I mean, I do. Like, I think it's when you kind of get so booked up in advance anyway. It's like you can start thinking I'm not really bothered. But I tell you what it is as well, is that when your phone doesn't stop ringing and you're seeing so many jobs, it gets to the point where you think you don't want to keep going out quoting and quoting and quoting, because that takes so much time as well. So in another aspect, it's actually nice to be booked up in advance, because when you do tell these people these are the dates you're looking at, then they're either going to go, oh yeah, we'll wait, or no, that's too far. So I think if you kind of, it's a difficult one. I don't know, because if you kind of really overprice it, and you kind of, a lot of people are going to go, oh no, then you're just forever going out quoting, and I don't. Do you see what I mean? It's a difficult one, because it's just, I don't enjoy quoting. Let's put it that way. Because the sole reason is that when I'm at the job, I'm at the job and I enjoy that. I'm not one of these that I'll go and leave and go and quote a job. So it's always going to be after work or on the weekend. Yeah. So it's nice to have a packed diary, because otherwise I just feel like I'm going out just constantly chasing work. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right kind of mentality to have or not in business, but I don't know.
So do you find that? So you said before currently you're about 6 months in advance booked up.
Yeah. Where are we now? Yeah, 6-7 months.
Okay, so you're about 6 months in advance. So I think that's a good position to get yourself to, because then you've got a couple of things of, you won't have to be out quoting everything, because assume from that initial phone call, when someone calls you up and say, I'm interested in some decorating work, one of the first things you'll say is, absolutely, yeah, I'd love to, but to make you aware, the nearest time I'm going to slot you in is 6-7 months down the line, whatever date that might be. I think that's probably a great pre-qualifier then, isn't it? Because if they're willing to wait, then they're probably going to be a good customer who really values what they do and will probably be happy to pay for the service that you want to offer. If they're like, oh, no, I was hoping you'd start in next week, you probably think, they're probably after a different sort of service to what I offer.
That's the good thing with the regular customers as well, though, because that a lot of the times I go, oh, I know you get booked up really busy. That's why we're calling you now.
Yeah,
we're calling you now for exterior work for next year because we know how busy you're getting. So they always do that, and they always say, if I say you're going to be 7 months or whatever, they say that's fine. You're absolutely fine. They're prepared to wait. Whereas more likely with new clients, when you tend, it just depends. Like you say, if your reputation, you've been recommended, you do get a lot of them that are prepared to wait. But there are people who want it done now. There's a lot of people who they just got that mentality. I mean, actually, I worked for someone. I've worked for someone, and I think a couple of years ago, and she actually WhatsApped me today, and I just finished her friend's place, and I was there for like 5 weeks. And they've done so she's done a brilliant. The job is brilliant. Customer's really pleased. But she messaged me and said, "Oh, we want to get some work done for spring, summer." And I'm like, I can't. These are the dates. So you're going to be looking pretty much now, sort of October time, probably onwards of that. And she hasn't responded to me yet. Even though I've worked for her before, and even though I've just finished a friend's place as well. So because I think in her mind, she wants it done at that specific date. So
yeah. How do you feel about? Sorry.
No. It just depends on the customer, the individual. Everyone's different, aren't they? Really. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you feel about when you have to turn down that sort of work? Is it a little bit of a gut punch, or do you think, or do you maybe have you ever considered taking on staff so that you could perhaps fulfil more of these jobs, or do you just look at it as that they weren't the right fit for me and what I'm trying to do with my business?
It depends as well. If someone emails me or calls me and describes the job, and I think, well, that sounds like a decent job, and I can't do it, then there'll be a sense of, But like, if I am really booked up in advance, and I go, and I'm thinking, I don't want to go out and quiet, I'm just so busy, and then they say to me, oh no, we can't that way, and I'm like, oh, that's a shame. That's the result. It's terrible, isn't it? And so I don't know. It just depends. I just feel like I'm so busy sometimes. It's actually nice when they turn around and go, I can't wait that long.
You go, all right, well, I'll just stay here, sat in my pajamas then, don't worry.
No, actually, it's more disappointing if it's someone I've actually worked for, and then they say, oh, no, we need to get it done. And I'm thinking, oh, well, you can't wait. That would be the only time I'll probably ever feel disappointed. But,
I know a decorator who purposely leaves 1 week a month free in his diary so that when opportunities come up, he can always squeeze them in quite quickly if he needs to. And it works quite well because occasionally, as you said, a job will come up and you will be a little bit gutted if you can't do it, if you can't fit it in. You feel like you might have missed out an opportunity, and he'll work it so that so he leaves a week free, and if nothing comes up, then he just rings the next customer and says, oh, good news, I can fit you in a week early if you want me to come around, and sort of keeps his diary full that way. But it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's trying to balance it. You want the security of being booked up a long way in advance, and you've got to balance that against, am I missing out the occasional opportunity?
Do you know what, though? I was just thinking, because what I used to do is always give people dates and go, these are the dates and I'm going to be with this. I used to kill myself working weekends to make sure I'd reach that date.
Yeah. And
I think after, especially with COVID and everything else, I'm thinking you can't guarantee, especially like, I was going to say about taking on staff, but I was going to say, like, on my own, I'm like, I don't guarantee dates. I'd say, this is my estimated start date, and as we approach that date, I'll let you know as soon as I can when we can really pencil in a definite date, because I'm thinking to myself, we've put yourself under so much pressure to make sure that you reach that time. So I won't do that anymore. They just get an estimated start date, and everyone's happy with that, on the whole. No one's turned around and gone, I'm not happy with that. I need to know now. And I think because of the circumstances, because you just don't know. I think we're looking. It looks optimistic. I think he's going to be okay, but you just don't know. Things might change again. So it's impossible to say I'm definitely going to be with you in August, because I don't know. And I always say as well, some of the jobs I do, especially the exterior jobs, additional works, extras, you might say you're going to be there for 3-4 weeks. You might end up having a couple of weeks extra. There's just nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. If it rains for 2 weeks straight, well,
yeah, exactly.
What can you do?
But yeah, but but there are jobs, or what I actually say to people as well, like these are the dates you're looking at, but there might be a change. The job might get postponed, which has actually happened. 3 jobs in a row postponed, and I was able to just pull a couple of ones forward. So
right.
So it all kind of works out in the end. But yeah, so I was going to go back to the staff thing. So in the past, so when I actually worked with my uncle, what happened was I was working with my uncle, and then I thought, right, I started up on my own. We were still working together.
Okay.
And so he still had his own business, and we just sort of did it like that. And then we fell out. We just have got very different mentality. Right, that's why I thought I've got to start on my own, because his mentality was completely different from mine. And I was like, that's why I thought I don't want my name attached to some of the stuff. So we, So then after that, I had the other guys that I could actually come in, like, give me a hand. And another thing, I worked with a good mate of mine as well, and we worked together. And you know what? It did really work, because we were banging out, we were smashing these jobs, getting through them, earning some decent money between us. It was nice having someone else there, and just, while I'm doing this, if you jump on that. But the problem was, with what I found was, when it's sort of like good mates, you have to be really on the same level with everything. And when it's that close, if you say, can you do that? Well, why don't you do it like this? When you need someone who's like staff, basically, can you go and do that? Yeah, I'm going to go and do that because you told me to do it. When it's getting like that, if you go, can you do that? And you start arguing, you're thinking, it's my job. That's why I want it done that way. So we fell out as well. It might be me. So we had a little fallout. And then I went back. And do you know what as well? You start relying on other people. That's what I felt like. I was like, I had this massive job lined up, and I thought, I've got to do it on my own. And I'm so used to working with someone else that I was really daunting. I was really worried. But then I started, when I worked, man, I thought, do you know what? It's no stress. It's so much easier on your own, because you just rely on yourself.
Yeah.
It's lovely when you really need someone. It's great, but I must admit, I think I prefer it until I need someone. Oh, I always say this as well. There's always that moment when you're on a big job, you're packing up, you're doing something, you're thinking, oh God, you're pissing down outside, and you're in and out with stuff, and you're thinking, I could do with a hand now. I mean, there's the other thing, you can maybe take on someone who's keen to learn, but I don't know as well. I think a youngster, I always feel like it's a bit of a, if you want a new build, empty property, yeah. When you work in domestic occupied property, I think it's too much of a gamble. I just don't know. I don't think I'm patient enough. And I don't know. It would be good. And I always actually said, maybe one day I actually will start thinking, because the work is there. Currently, there is enough work now that I could actually do that. But the other thing is as well, a lot of the people, I think when they choose me, they actually expect me to be there. And I think it's one of those. I could go, I'm going to leave. So Dave is just going to carry on here. And some people don't like that. As I noticed that even when I was working, because I was a bit younger, I was working with my uncle, and you go, and they didn't know me. So they'd go, Joel's going to, did a good job. But at the time, they'd be like, where's he going? And so it's got to be a bit careful with that as well. So
yeah, I think you've got to remember that a good decorator it's a real asset for someone to have, for a homeowner to have in their phone book, a decorator or any tradesman who is reliable, does good work, that you get on with. This is any sort of tradesman that you're inviting in your home. People don't want to just, every time they need some decorating done, they don't want to go out and get 5 or 6 quotes and have to invite loads of different people in. So when they find a decorator they like and delivers what they want, yeah. It's a real asset to people. And I think decorators need to remember that. But yeah, it's tricky because you want to take on staff, and the other thing, especially when you're working in people's homes and you're a sole trader, your business, you are your business. It's built on your values and the way you see the world and everything like that. So you have to find someone to work for you who has the same ideas and the same values and things like that. And obviously, I don't know what the situation with your uncle is, but perhaps maybe your uncle was like, wants to do a certain standard of finish, and you wanted to go to an extra higher level of finish. And then when you work for someone who's got different ideas and different values, then ultimately, you're just going to get to a point and go, this is just not how I want to do it. I'm not happy doing it this way.
I don't think he'd be watching this, but here's an example. He'd go, because he had Wixies round the corner, he'd go Wixies and he'd buy the 2-bob load of crap, like whatever, like paint, and it was just awful. And like 15 coats later, and you go, oh, I can't believe that. And you go, yeah, it's crap. That's why it's cost like, it's 10 quid, where the decent paint costs like 30 quid. And then you go, oh yeah, so get the next job. You get the same paint again. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I couldn't handle it. I'm like, the false economy would not. He couldn't justify laying out the money. But it's almost like you're not paying for it, you know. And he drove me mad. But that's
Well, that leads neatly on to the next bit then. So it's nice having an absolute pro like you. Setting me up. Yeah, so I noticed that you use a lot of good quality products, from Benjamin Moore's and stuff like that, expensive paints to all the fillers and
Endura. You can say
well, yeah. So it looks like you don't have that mindset of let's do 15 coats of a £10 for 10 litres.
That doesn't make sense to me. It's just I don't understand why people would even a customer I get. But if you're in the trade, I think if you're penny pinching stuff, but then the labour costs, it just doesn't make sense. So that's why, you know.
And is this something? Because a lot of people will look at it and go, I'd love to use Benjamin Moore, but I'll never get that past the homeowner. I'll never get past the customer. If they see a bill with 90 quid a tin on it, then they're going to laugh me out the door. So I guess, do you spend some time explaining why you use the materials you do, how that's better ultimately for them? Do you give them options? Or do you just say, look, this is what I want to use, this is what I use, and if you want to hire me, that's it? And do you even break down the price? Do you give them the materials bill, or do you put it all into one quote? How do you get that information across so that you can use the products you want?
So when I actually send the quote off, there will be the labour charge and the material charge. But I won't break down the materials, it'd just be the overall costing. But when I go to see the job, this is how I usually do it. We describe, I'll go, what kind of finish do you want on the woodwork? Is it an eggshell satin? Very rarely get gloss now. It's usually always going to be eggshell satin. And let's say 99% of the time it's white. It's going to be white ceilings, white woodwork, and a colour on the walls. So I always say to them, this is the particular paint I'm using on the ceilings, getting really great results with. This is what I'm using on the woodwork. And actually, I do actually say as well, it's pricier than other brands out there, blah, blah, blah. But these are the reasons, like we said, these are the reasons why, you know, and especially because oil-based. There's still so many decorators still using oil-based in interior jobs. Yeah. And the finish is amazing. When you do a couple of coats of a decent satin or gloss, it does look incredible. But everyone knows and I say this to clients as well. If you go for an oil base, I don't say it as much now. I did initially when I really was moving over to oil base, but it doesn't even seem like I have to kind of explain these things. But I still do, because a lot of jobs you go there and you can see the discoloured woodwork, and then I explain the reasons why it's gone like that. So I say to them that it will go yellow, and you'll go yellow really quickly. But then you've got the smell and the drying time, because a lot of people, I mean, I got to the point I was using so much oil based, people come in and go, oh, it stinks. And I go, I can't smell anything. I was so, and that ain't good, is it? That's no. And I couldn't smell it. And, but I say these things, and especially in occupied places with kids, if you say to them, I can paint this door and within 15, 20 minutes, it'll be touch dry, You solve it straight away. And I've actually done quite a few jobs. So the Benjamin Moore, I used a lot of Scuff X, the eggshell and satin. I mean, there's so many reasons why I get the results I want with it. It's a durable finish. Opacity is great. So again, there are other paints, but if you're doing coat after coat, but I know that primer and 2 coats is bang on. That's that's all the reasons why. But the drying times as well. So the people notice, they go, oh, I forgot, be careful. The kids coming from school, be careful. And they're like, yeah, be careful, but you can touch it. It's all right. It's dry. And then they see that. But but say a tin. So let's just say it's 3.8 litres and it costs 80, 90 quid a tin. If you say that to the customer straight away, if you go, I use this paint, but it costs 90 quid a tin, they're going to go, how much? I mean, some of the places is a mixture. Some are modest, some are very expensive properties, but even the properties that are over £1 million. If you say to them £90 a tin, they go, what? So I don't mention the cost of it. I don't say to them it's going to cost 90 quid. I just price it in. But then if it's just a standard bedroom, I'm not going to spend 90 quid on a small bedroom. I'll just charge them a score, charge them 20 quid or something like that. So just charge them the percentage of the paint I'm going to use. No one bats an eyelid, because sometimes I don't want to fib or hold anything back. But if you tell them that this costs 90 quid, they're going to go, see, I know that basically I could use another product that's going to say, oh, I can't do another coat till the next day. So it makes more sense that basically they're making a saving because the paint's better. So that's how I play. But the other thing I do is with the colour emulsions, because a lot of people don't know what they want. They go, oh, I'm not sure. I've seen the colour. I'm not particularly sure of the brand or anything. So what I've done this for ages now. I actually say to them, I'll tell you what I do. I leave it blank. I don't quote for it till you've made a decision on the colour. I always say 2 coats on my quote, 2 coats. But I say to them, look, depending on the colour, because it might take X amount of coats, you might need a base coat. You don't know what paint, because there's no point in pricing for, say, Dulux Trade or whatever else, and then they go, I want Farrow & Ball. So I leave the colours blank. Then it brings the labour cost down when you actually send it off. So then I actually go, and then at the end, you go, oh, this is the custom paint. And no one's ever complained. No one's ever gone, oh, I didn't know that. Because I actually say to them, what do you want? And then I would even say to them, oh, this is going to cost this for the emulsion. So it makes your life easier. You don't put yourself under any pressure to try and, if you price for that paint, and then you're thinking, oh, I need more, or it doesn't cover, or I wasn't expecting to use that, then you haven't done yourself up. So that's how I've done it. It works for me. And like I say, customers never turn around and complain about it. So
yeah, I think that's a really good way of doing it, because you're doing a couple of things. I've just jotted down here. So I think part of what a homeowner wants when they're inviting a decorator in and they're going through the quotation process and stuff is they want to know that they're talking to an expert. And I think with a painter and decorator, that includes you sharing your knowledge on products and explaining why certain products, because Mrs. Jones, she's not going to have a clue if she walked down an aisle in Brewers or whatever and just saw all the paints.
Yeah,
she doesn't know what she's looking for. She doesn't know what's what or anything like that. So she'll just be drawn to the price. And so if they can get some expert advice from you and say, look, even if you do say this is 90 quid a tin, but once you start explaining, but the thing is, it's 90 quid a tin, but I know this is going to cover in 2. And I know I'll be able to get 2 coats on in a day. And I said, yeah, I could go and use a different paint, or I could use oil base or stuff like that, but I'm going to then use twice as much of it because the coverage isn't as good, and I'm going to need more coats. It won't dry as quick, so it means that it's going to take me 2 days instead of 1. And once you start explaining that, then you can just say, look, I'm going to use these paints, and you might think the materials bill is a little bit higher, but ultimately it's not, and it's reducing the labour time, so you're making a saving there. And this is the most efficient way to do it. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. I do this every day. I've been on jobs where, and it's funny you say about certain colours and stuff like that. Yeah, you find certain deep oranges, notoriously difficult. I've heard of people doing 8, 9, 10 coats of certain colours.
Oh, mate, you pay the money for Farron Ball. But yeah, it was, I had that orange, and I was like, oh, yeah, bad memories.
Yeah. No, so I think number one, it's important for the decorators to understand. And I liked how you said, yeah, you're doing a room, you're not going to use a full 90 quid tin of Benjamin Moore on that, but it's something you keep in the van, and you can go, well, that was 20 quid's worth of paint. And when you break it down to how much paint am I actually using, what's the price of the paint I actually need for this area, a 90 quid tin of Benjamin Moore will do as much, if not more, than 10 tins of £10 cheap emulsion, won't it?
And the same thing is, like, say, like a tin of shellac, say something like Ginger Bin or Smith and Roger Blockade, something like that. I know full well on most of the jobs there might only be a little stain, there might be just something I need to seal, or just a little bit of spot priming with. I ain't going to charge them for a full tin. So if I've got a tin that's going to do X amount of jobs, I'll just take a percentage out of that, because it's still going to be cheaper for the customer in that sense. Because if they went out and bought all the materials themselves, they'd have to buy everything. So it's going to be so much higher. If I just go, right, I know I don't need a whole tin, I'm going to use X amount of it, I'm still making profit from that, because I'm charging. I can't figure it out exactly. Like, I've dipped my brush in 3 times, I'm going to charge them. It's just like, I'm just going to charge a percentage of it. So I'm making money and saving them money at the same time. So
and when you explain it like that, it makes a lot of sense, because I think the decorators that I speak to, I think it's better nowadays. I don't think as many homeowners are trying to supply the paint to save a bit of money. I think a lot of decorators are managing to be the expert and say, these are the products that I'm using now. So don't turn up with some Wilco paint that was on offer, because I don't want to use it, because it will just put the labour cost up.
Well, I actually, so going back to the thing with emulsion, I don't just kind of go, I don't price the emulsion and I'll do it at the end. I would still actually explain to them, but this is what I recommend. So if you, because I'll just play it like that, and I'll say, I recommend this brand if you and I'll go through the motions of that, because the same thing again. I'll say, don't be led into a false economy. If you go to the hardware stores and you're seeing they're doing a deal for 2 for 30 quid, there's a reason why, because it's crap. It's not going to cover. You're not going to get the finish. You're not going to get the durability and all that kind of thing. So I always explain it to them like that. But at the same time as well, a lot of the clients they've got the people who like the Farron balls, and I say to them, look, because people don't realise this. We say with Farron ball, they're thinking, I'm paying £90 a tin for Farron ball. It must be the best paint in the world, and I have to explain to them, you might be paying 90 quid, but I guarantee that it's not going to cover in 2 coats. So it's going to take 3rd coat. So you charge it 90 quid for that tin, but you might need more. Or the other thing is that you're supposed to use their wall primer first, which no one knows that. No, I mean, I have never gone into and they've gone, oh, I've got this tin of Farron ball. Did you get wall primer? What wall primer? No one knows that. So, and this is what I'm trying to explain to people. So, don't fall into the cheap rubbish. And at the same time, I'll give them advice. I always try and say, steer them towards, if you're going to want that kind of prestige Farron ball, I'll try and steer them more towards Little Green or something like that, because it's just a better product. So that's my opinion anyway. So and I'm sure there's quite a few decorators who agree. You get a few that go, oh no, I love it.
I hear a lot of good stuff about Little Green's intelligent eggshell. Have you been using that?
Yeah, I actually used that in a job recently. I actually did the house I was working in. I was there for 5 weeks, and everything was like the walls. Everything was intelligent matte on the walls, and I actually used the intelligent eggshell on the woodwork. Yeah, it's nice paint. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah,
I even exterior stuff as well. So
I think it's important to explain to homeowners exactly everything that they need to know about paint, because, as you say, when someone doesn't know much about a topic, in any situation, if there's anything I don't know about something, you then sort of go, well, what do I know? And you look for those general rules, and as a general rule, usually the more you pay, the better something is. But it's not always the case, particularly in paint. Like you say, someone who doesn't know anything, someone who doesn't know anything about paint seeing a tin of Farron ball must go,
Yeah.
"Well, I bet that must be brilliant
Yeah,
paint."
exactly. Yeah.
And it's not. It's expensive for a different reason.
Yeah.
It's not, necessarily the quality. And yeah, taking the time to explain that to homeowners, I think, it pays off big time, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
So, last thing I want to talk about is what I like to refer to as like the decorator's spidey sense, the sixth sense that I think it comes with experience. It's when a job comes along and for some reason or another you just get a funny feeling, and it's that knowing when to say no to a job, knowing when to turn it down. Have you had this a lot throughout your time being self-employed? Have you had to say no to a few people? Have you walked out on many jobs because you've sometimes? I think that it's an important skill to be able to spot a bad customer before you're sort of in too deep.
Yes, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there are times when you can think, oh, this person's going to be a nightmare. I mean, there are times I've actually done the job and gone, they've actually been really nice. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you've gone there and you're thinking, oh, they seem really nice, and they have been a nightmare. Always say it's always been few and far between. While I worked for this company called Rock, and it was all insurance work. So I get to, and that's one that I was actually doing that a few years ago, and that's kind of more multi-trade stuff. But I was doing a lot of decorating work as well. And the thing is with these people, a lot of people was they kind of thought that they was actually paying into some sort of kitty. So when they get a claim, they're going to get the house all done up. Because it's an insurance job, it's like you're just doing the ceiling, you're just doing this, you're not doing the woodwork, and you see people turn, and then you had all these kind of moments like that. But you get people as well when you go there, they like want to scam the insurance, like they put their foot through the plasterboard and stuff like that. It wasn't my job to kind of like work, but you could work them out straight away. You're thinking, well, this is like a false claim, and then they try to start blaming you for things as well, like you flicked paint over there or stuff like that. So it was horrible. Like sometimes, you did. So when you start up and you're doing your own, you do sometimes walk into a job and you think, I don't know. And times when you walk into a place and it's just like really overly messy, like you think the room's a pit, and you're thinking, what do you know full well that they're not going to clear the room? You just kind of get these. Yeah, I've had like I've had so many different things anyway, but yeah, if you're gonna walk off the job, do it before you kind of get in too deep. I mean, I don't recommend you start walking off jobs left, right, and centre when you get the young over or anything, because that's not going to look good on your reputation. But there are times when you're thinking you've got to make a decision there and then, and I have done. And funnily enough, it wasn't that long ago, and I turned that actually messed me about to start with, but I was like, okay. And then he said he had to get a COVID test. I thought that's fine. But then he said, "Oh no, I just had the flu." I'm like, okay. I'm thinking, well, you still don't want to catch the flu, do you? You're thinking with everything going on. So when I got to the place, and I thought, right, well, he's got to do is let me in through the front door. It was quite minimal work in the hallway, but when I got there, he sort of opened the door, and there was just crap everywhere. Like, I mean, like all. Entrance hallway, there's stuff hanging up, there's bags, and these people are just like really messy. This one, like this, the house was probably worth a couple of quid, but it was just a real mess. And he went, and I went, oh, okay, I'm looking, and I just get wound up. I'm I'm not very good in these moments, John. I mean, I like to think I'm a nice bloke, but I'm just sort of thinking straight away. I'm thinking, got my back up. I'm thinking. Nah, I don't like. He's sort of coughing and spluttering, and I thought, I don't want to be here, And then he's like, and then he just said all this stuff because obviously I've got to get out and do that. And he went, oh yeah, no, I'll do that in 20 minutes. I just got sort of like, but because I couldn't do anything, I said, oh, you're going to do that in 20 minutes. You're gonna move all this shit in 20 minutes. So I just stand around here while you take time. I said, no, I didn't say shit, but I just said to him, oh, I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I think we'll leave it. And I just sort of walked off oh no. So I thought to myself, because that kind of thing in my mind, I thought to myself, now if you can't be bothered to move the shoes and bags and coats and all the other crap out of the way, like, and you're going to do it in your own time, so I could just stand here like a lemon while you take your time to, I thought, what are you going to be like when it comes to payment? So when I
Yeah.
send the invoice off, if you can't be asked to move your stuff out of the way so I can actually do the job, which has been organised for X amount of time, and you've already messed me about it to begin with, and I thought I'll send that invoice off, and they'd be like, they'd read it and they go, I'll do that when and I thought, so you get moments like that anyway. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think there's just the ability to spot when a customer is not a good fit for your business. Is a skill that you need to hone in, and obviously it will take time. It takes experience, and you'll end up working for the odd person. You think, fucking hell, I don't want to work for someone like that again. And yeah, I guess over time you sort of learn to pick up on those little cues. Like you said, maybe the house is overly messy when you go around to quote, and you think, is this a sort of, or maybe they're really trying to grind you down on the price and stuff like that. I guess
it's not judging people. You don't. It's not like you're going in and start judging people. But you do.
no,
There are little moments. There should be little telltale signs. There's certain
yeah,
things that they're saying, or the way that, or even you just think, are they just sort of, if they're really rude, or they're just kind of, I don't know. You're thinking, do I really want to work for a person like this? If someone's and there's two levels of fussy as well. If someone who's got every right to be fussy, if they say, look, I'm really fussy, I want it done a certain way, blah blah blah, then you think to yourself, no, it's fair enough. You're paying whatever a lot of money, you want it like that, that's completely fine. But as long as you're prepared to pay, you want it perfect, you've got to pay for it to be perfect. But then you get other people, they're like, they're a weird kind of fussy, and you just kind of get that thing, and you're thinking, you just think, no, you're just going to be a nightmare. You want to pay peanuts, but you're going to be fussy over, like, I don't know, like, oh no, I'm not really bothered about that bump, just paint over it. That's what they say to you when you're there. But when you're there, they go, what about that bump?
yeah.
You just know you're just going to get people like that. So it's but yeah, actually going back to the working for regular clients, I think that's the biggest attraction as well. Once you've worked for them, they've paid you, it's a nice, there's none of that, you don't stress. If you kind of think to yourself, oh, I hope these people are going to be all right, I hope they're going to pay me, that's one of the things, that's one of the advantages. When you've worked for someone before, it's a nice feeling when I know what they're like, I know it's going to be a nice job, I know there's going to be no problems. So it's just that kind of thing as well to take into consideration. But I think it's just the unfortunate part of being self-employed, and it's just part and parcel of it, really. You get it. And I like to think that I would say all majority of the people that I go and see, they're all decent. They just want a decent tradesman to do a decent job. But you will get, every now and then, you might get the old someone a bit dodgy or someone, But yeah,
And the thing is,
you won't always weed them out. You'll get caught off guard. I think it's just one of those things. But yeah, if you do think, if you get that gut feeling as soon as you walk through the front door, then I think you need to follow with it. I think if you go, oh, take a chance. I'm not saying that I don't sometimes. I think we all still get caught out. But if you really think you walk through the front door that you think to yourself, this has just got nightmare written all over it, then walk away. It ain't worth it, because you're probably right. So
yeah, no, I think that's good advice. Yeah, trust that gut instinct. You've got to listen to it, because working for a bad client, you always say 80% of the grief you get in any role comes from 20% of your customers, and it's those 20% of customers, they're the ones you make no money on. It's always the customers you make no money on that seem to give you the most grief. The most polite and easy to deal with customers are also the ones that you make more money on. It's just like, why can't I just always deal with people like this? But yeah, it's one of those, you've got to use your experience. I guess one of the things that, getting that bank of regular customers, as you've done, and I know a lot of decorators have that, once you get to, let's say, probably about 3 months worth sort of in front, I guess you're in a better position then to be a bit more picky, and if you walk into a job and you think, oh, this is not quite right, well, if you've got no work lined up, then you're just going to end up taking it, whether you should or shouldn't, I don't know. If you're booked up a little bit in advance, it helps that you can turn down the odd job, and I think ultimately it will help you grow a bigger and better and more stable business anyway. Do you think?
Absolutely. But yeah, that's true. Everyone's circumstances are different. Some people are just struggling, and they kind of go, I haven't got a choice, I'm gonna have to take a gamble But yeah, if you're in that position where you think, well, why take on unnecessary pressure, or it's not worth it. It's just the
Yeah.
point. So
No, it's crazy. I was talking to someone the other day about this sort of thing, and basically, as he was decorating right through his sort of 20s and 30s, and he had his family and his kids were growing up and stuff like that, it was just like everything was a battle because he felt like he needed to take every job that came up, and then he got to sort of his 50s, and his kids moved out. He didn't quite need so much money, and then all of a sudden, because he wasn't so desperate for work, it just started rolling into him easier than it ever has. And it's like, it's that horrible paradox, isn't it? That I think customers can just smell desperation. And when you don't need the work, and sometimes you'll price it a little bit higher because you don't really need it, and you end up getting those, and then you're like, I don't know what to do here. It's like, it's either always really difficult because you're struggling, or it gets easier and easier as you go on.
Well, I think that's another thing as well. I think if you really do underprice it, I mean, there will be people who do look at the price and go, oh, I'm going to go for the cheapest, but there are quite a few others that look at it. If you're really cheap, they go, why is he so cheap? He must be terrible. You know, so you've got to find that, you've got to be careful with that as well. Even whatever your circumstance. So even if you're rather really struggling, don't be tempted to go in so cheap, because you might miss out on a decent client that actually thinks to themselves, why is he charging this? He must be absolutely useless. So
I know someone who sprays UPVC windows, and he said that he will almost double his prices in certain villages and areas near him, and because by putting his prices up, he gets more jobs like that, because in that area they don't want someone to come in really cheap, because they think, well, why is he so cheap? And then it allows him to take a bit more time and get everything sorted. So yeah, there is a point where you have to position yourself. And I know decorators that will, even on the phone when they're pre-qualifying, they'll just be like, I want to let you know right now, I'm not going to be the cheapest quote. But if you're still interested, then I'll come around and I'll explain all the reasons why. But if you're literally just looking for the cheapest decorator, I'll let you know now it's not going to be me. And then that's sort of a good way to. It's quite ballsy, I think. I'd like to see actually do that. But
why waste your time? Why waste your time? You know, you spend an hour there and you think to yourself, I mean, like I say, like everything's been a learning curve with me. I've been on jobs and I've been around there and quoting and thinking, there's no way they're gonna. I can just tell straight away. Like, well, now, but you know, like in the past, you've gone around and thinking, I've just spent an hour here, knowing I know for well they won't even reply to my email, and you're thinking, you know.
So let's go with a final verdict then on how to attract the right type of customers. A few key points. So trusting your gut was an important one. I think trusting your gut on when to say no to customers is very important for building that bank. Looking after your existing customers, the ones that are good, going the extra mile for them, and keeping that bank of customers happy. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
And because I think they will help you keep booked up far enough in advance that you can be more selective on what you go out to quote for, I guess.
Yeah. And you always guaranteed a decent customer as well. So there's no gambles you can get. So
yeah. Any other quick tips that you would say for someone looking to, improve the type of customers they're attracting?
I don't know. Let's have a think. Well,
I think just knowing your values and what you want from a customer, I think that's got to be important. So being clear on who you are and what sort of business you're running, and knowing exactly what you know, like for you don't want to be going around quoting jobs where people just want you to slap a couple of coats on the wall and be in and out in half a day. Your business is built on, you want to do proper jobs with the right prep and leave them with a flawless finish that they're going to go and tell all their friends about. So I guess knowing your position in the market and what you're aiming for with your business is probably quite important.
Yeah, don't lower your the quality of the work you do, because then that could have tarnished your reputation. So
Yeah.
so if someone does want to kind of get a cheap whatever job done, then they want you to use rubbish materials and it's just going to harm your reputation, then I'll definitely say steer away from that and just keep true to yourself and how you want to operate, basically.
Yeah, I think you've got to do it that way, and it might be difficult turning down the odd job, but you've got to remember that there is that, your reputation and how you want to get your recommendations and everything like that, and you don't want to get caught going down a path that you weren't really interested in, because if you do a quick job with cheap materials and stuff like that, they're going to tell their friends about you, and then you're going to end up doing another one like that.
This job? Oh yeah, that was Bardall Decorating. He did that, Sid. Oh right, did he? You're blimey,
yeah. And he only charged £100. And you're like, oh, okay, we'll give him a go. And before you know it, you're fully booked up with sort of customers that you don't really want. So
exactly,
it might be difficult, and it might mean that building your business is a little bit slower, I guess. But building it right from the start is probably quite important. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for this, Joel. Let's. I mentioned to it right at the start that you are the host of the Painting and Decorating show on Fix Radio. So how can we listen into that? When is that? And is there an app or anything that we can catch up on episodes?
There certainly is, Mr. Mears.
Wow.
So you can tune into Fix Radio every Tuesday at 1 p.m. It's DAB, it's London, Manchester. If you can't get the station, you're actually online, www.fixradio.co.uk. There's also an app you can download, so you can listen to it anytime. But also, the good thing with the shows that we do, they are available as podcasts as well. So Spotify, iTunes, usual streaming service. And so Tuesday the show goes out, Friday's released as a podcast. So you haven't tuned in before, there's all the podcasts there, so they're all available.
Brilliant. Spotify is where I listen to them, so I think you can get it on all the podcast platforms coming. And the show is you talking to decorators about different topics, and it's
pretty much what we're doing now.
Well,
you've been on it, John. You've been on it before, so it's the kind of concept we've got is usually we have a guest and she's talking about experiences, just everything like favorite tools, favorite paints, talk about favorite jobs, just kind of learning those things. One of my favorite questions is always nightmare clients. Nightmare jobs, nightmare clients, because it's almost like people go back when they tell the story, it's like they've been in Vietnam. You weren't there, man. and it's so funny because I just love all that stuff. But it's the thing, because it's all about, it's just it's a learning curve. But so there's a lot of sharing those kind of experiences. So yes, it's good. And plus, I'm always learning stuff as well. So even from the guests that we have on, someone go, oh yeah, I've been using this stuff. Oh, that's good. So it's educational.
Educational as well. You've got everything. No, it is. It's a really good show, and if you haven't listened to it, then get on the podcast and binge them. I know that decorators love a podcast. It's perfect for listening as you're working. So definitely recommend that. And where can we find you on social media? How can we connect with you and get a bit more Bardall in our lives?
Oh, a bit more Bardall in your lives. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram as @Bardall Decor. I'm also on LinkedIn now, which is Joel Bardall. My website is www.bardalldecor.co.uk, and I think that's about it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. And if anyone wants more from me, go to my website, jmears.co.uk/ebook, and you can sign up and get a free download of my latest ebook, which will give you 7 marketing secrets guaranteed to grow your painting and decorating business. Joel, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me on, mate. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. Cheers, guys.